In today's workshop, we're going to be focusing on how to reduce DNA rates with one simple tool. So we'll just have a quick run through of what we'll actually cover in today's workshop. So firstly, we'll take a look at understanding DNAs. So we'll have a look at what a DNA is, and then we'll have a look into some reasons as to why people might DNA. Next, we'll take a look at developing a data-led strategy. So we'll have a look at monitoring client activity, how to do that, and then we'll take a look at actually analysing that data and looking for patterns and trends in client behaviour. Then we'll go on to looking at how to use SMS reminders, so why SMS reminders are the most effective method of communication in this circumstance. And then we'll also have a look at how to put together some successful content. Following that, we'll take a look at getting results. So we'll delve a little bit deeper into the actual content of SMS reminders, and we'll take a look at some things that we can use for client motivation. And then we'll take a look at other top tips. Lastly, we'll take a look at everything else. So not as vast as it sounds, we'll look at other considerations when it comes to using SMS reminders. So things like making sure that we're complying with GDPR and data processing regulations. We'll also look at other methods of combating DNAs. So let's get started with the basics. So what is a DNA? Typically, DNA stands for did not attend. And usually when we're talking about a DNA, we're probably going to be thinking of a client that does not turn up to their appointment with no prior notice. And that's probably what most people think of when they're thinking of DNA. In this workshop, we are also going to include any appointment cancellations that are made in advance or last minute. So even those clients that are engaging with us to cancel their appointments, we're going to look at how to tackle those as well as part of our DNA strategy. Let's explore some of the reasons why people might cancel or fail to turn up for their appointments. So why do people DNA? So the top two reasons that we've got here are probably the most common. So we're looking at people who are forgetting the time or the date, or just forgetting their appointment completely. So if that information is not readily available, or you're having to hunt through emails, that kind of thing, I'm sure it's something we've all done at some point in time. It's really easy to forget an appointment, and that obviously then leads to a no-show for you guys. So the next one would be clerical errors. So if there's any issues with sending out information via the clinic or collecting data, that can then lead to somebody being unable to keep their appointment. Next, we've got difficulty in rearranging an appointment. So if the client is unaware of the best way to contact you to reschedule an appointment, or if there simply aren't any effective open communication channels in place, that could lead to somebody failing to turn up. And lastly, something that perhaps we don't think about too often is that people can be apprehensive about attending a new or unfamiliar setting. So if we're thinking about new customers, or perhaps you've had a new premises, or you've opened up a new clinic, some people might be a bit anxious about finding the location or just coming for a new service or treatment. So they're just some of the reasons why people might DNA that we should be aware of. So of course, there are other reasons why people might cancel their appointments, including illness, a family emergency, and that kind of thing. And what we're going to focus on today is the ones that are more in our control. At the end of the workshop, we will have a look at how we can encompass all of those reasons and different ways to tackle them. But for the purpose of SMS reminders and improving our performance on the DNA rate side of things, we're going to focus on these ones which we have a little bit more input in. So now that we've got a good idea of why some people might fail to turn up for their appointments, let's take a look at how we can start monitoring client activity. So creating a data-driven strategy is going to be the key to success when it comes to reducing your DNAs. So the first thing that you'll need to do is establish your current DNA rate. So this is really easily achievable in PPS. You can go to the reports section and you can run a report which shows the number of DNAs within a certain period of time. So this does rely on you having recorded that data in PPS, like any piece of software does. Obviously, you've got to input the data to be able to pull it out. But basically, you can select a period of time, so whether that's the past month, the past 6 months, or the past year, and you can take a look at the number of DNAs within that period of time. So if you put the number of DNAs against the number of appointments within that same period of time, that will give you your DNA rate. So now that you have that figure, that's a really good basis to start from. And what you'll want to do next is just ensure that you are then conducting regular reporting. So obviously, DNA patterns can change over time, and we'll take a look at that in a second. So in order to establish a good average DNA rate, you'll want to get into a routine of running these reports on a regular basis. So it will help you to keep on top of things, but it will also give you a more accurate overview of your client behaviour and what your average DNA rate is. So again, in PPS, there's a really easy way of doing this on a regular basis, especially if you have tweaked the DNA report. So you'll know within PPS, there are lots of options in the reporting section. You can pop in your own criteria or breakdowns. So if you've got a report set up that you'd like to run on a regular basis, you can save that to your favourite reports, and then you can select that when you next come to run your DNA report. And what that does is just give you access to all of that specific criteria that you've popped in every time without having to re-add that information. So lastly, what we've got here is good record keeping. So we kind of touched on that a moment ago. So just to reconfirm what that's about is if we're not putting the data into PPS, you're not going to be able to pull that out. So making sure that every time somebody cancels or doesn't turn up, we are recording that in PPS, and you can really easily do that via the appointment status. You can also make that a lot more specific. So rather than just marking an appointment as a DNA, you can add into PPS DNA reasons. So this will be more important a little bit later when it comes to actually analysing the data. So popping in reasons for DNAs that you're able to then use when you're recording one will help you categorise those DNAs further down the line. So for example, one umbrella term might be illness, and then you can drill down to that a little bit further if you want to. But there may also be reasons such as no contact or family emergency. So you'll be able to establish your own set of DNA reasons, and they'll probably be dictated by your clients, really. So whatever they're kind of calling up with and cancelling and citing as their reasons, that will probably form the basis of your DNA list. So now let's take a look at how we can analyse that data. So using the data collected via the monitoring to identify trends and patterns in our client behaviour. So firstly, we've got repeat offenders. So that's anybody who is cancelling or failing to turn up for their appointment on a regular basis. So if they're doing that a couple of times a month or even a year, it's probably something that you want to look at and see if there's anything that you can do about that. So these people are pretty easy to identify. You'll find them in your reports. So if you're looking at the DNAs for a certain period of time via the PPS report, it's going to be very easy to spot somebody who's cropping up on there multiple times within that time period. You'll also be able to look into this a little bit further on each individual client log. So if you've seen a name crop up on the report that you recognise, you can then go to that individual client log and you can actually see how many appointments that person has attended versus how many they have cancelled or not shown up for. So because this one's on quite a personal level, this really gives us a good opportunity to take a look at our policies and the communication that we have with our individual patients. So is it really clear that we have a cancellation policy in place? And are these clients aware of that? Are there any implications for cancelling an appointment on a repeated basis? And are there any implications of cancelling an appointment within a certain time period? So is there a cancellation fee, for example, for cancelling an appointment within 24 hours of the appointment date? If all of these things are in place and you're certain that you've got good communication between yourself and your clients, this creates a great opportunity to actually review these things and find out why they're not effective. So why are these clients still repeatedly cancelling or not turning up for their appointments, regardless of all of these things that you have already put in place to combat this? So something else that might crop up when we're looking at the data is certain days of the week. So it may be that when you're running your reports and you're delving into that DNA rate, you'll be able to see that quite frequently people are not attending their appointments when it falls on a particular day. So let's take Saturday as an example. It could be that Saturday mornings people just aren't turning up. And then by identifying that, so if we can see Saturdays are quite a popular day for DNAs, we can then start to think about how we can combat that. So perhaps thinking about exploring a bit more into why people aren't turning up on Saturdays. Is it that we're in a busy town centre and it's really difficult to park? There could be lots of reasons. Obviously, some could be quite personal, but if there's anything that you can identify that matches up with that pattern, so that particular day of the week, there could be more than one, then that's something that you can start to then work upon. So quite similar to the above, we've got particular appointment slots. So again, it may be that when you're looking at that data, you're seeing that there are frequently people not turning up for a particular appointment slot. So that could be evening slots, it could be morning slots, and that will really help you to maybe even adjust your clinic opening hours. So if you do one late night a week, but people aren't turning up on that evening, could it be that you want to switch that to another evening or perhaps two slightly earlier evenings and just kind of see where that data takes you? Because it's not all about changing the client behaviour. It can sometimes be about changing your own behaviour to fit your client's needs and thus reducing the DNAs in that way. So lastly, we've got time of year or seasonal changes. So if you think along the lines of regular holidays that crop up throughout the year, so Easter, Christmas, the school holidays that span over the summer, these could all be times of year where you might see a significant change in client behaviour. These are times of the year when people are typically busier with other activities, but also times of the year when people have a bit more downtime. So they might tend to book more appointments for those niggling health issues that they've been ignoring, but then other stuff crops up and gets in the way. So it's just keeping an eye on whether there is any change in behaviour around those particular times of the year. And if there is there a way that we're able to combat that? Can we incentivize turning up for your appointment around the festive period, for example? Is there particular information that we need to get across to our clients to make sure that they can attend their appointment throughout the summer holidays? So it's just being aware of if there is an impact based upon any seasonal events and what we can do to combat those. So I think, as you can see, it's going to be really key to identify those trends and patterns so that we can start understanding our client behaviour so that we can then start to implement an effective communication strategy. So hopefully now you've got a good idea of how to start monitoring your client activity and then what to do with that data, so how to analyse it and what kind of trends and patterns to start looking for. So let's take a look at using SMS reminders and why they're such an effective method of communication in this circumstance. So everyone is available in the digital age. So that's proven here with this first statistic, really. So 98% of all adults in the UK have access to a mobile phone. Now, you might be thinking about some of your client groups that maybe don't directly have access to a mobile phone. So that could be the older generation, or it could be that you work with young children. So typically within these groups, there is usually somebody that has access to a device on behalf of those people. So it could be a carer or a family member. So I think it's also important to understand just how accessible people are to their smartphones as well. So the next stat states that people in the UK check their smartphones on average every 12 minutes of the waking day. And what this means for you in terms of your reminders is just that it's highly likely that somebody's going to pick up their phone before their appointment and get that message. So they're going to have access to all of the information that they need in order to keep their appointment. So obviously, it's not just about the fact that people are constantly picking up their phones. They're probably getting lots of messages throughout the day. So I think the next stat's quite important. And if we look to the bottom left-hand corner, it states that 95% is the average SMS open rate in the UK. And that's compared to just 20% for email. So this really hammers home the importance of using SMS over other forms of communication. People not only are constantly picking up their devices, and there's lots of people that have access to these devices, but there's also a really high open rate, so it's very likely that that message is going to be read. So not only is it important that people are actually reading those messages, it's really important that people are trusting of the content, so that they're trusting enough in the first place to open that message, and that they're trusting enough to believe that that's a genuine message, especially if you've decided to include any external links. So we're probably all very familiar with the number of spam emails that are flying around these days. So if we have a look at this next stat, it states that 93% of people have more trust in SMS over email. And that's due to a lower spam rate of just 2.8% compared to a rate of 53% in emails. And lastly here, we know that 90% of people prefer a text over a phone call. So there are obviously a small percentage of people that have said that they prefer a phone call, and there's always going to be people that prefer different methods. But if we're going with the majority, we know that we're going to get most people, we're going to give them the information that they need, and the likelihood is that they're going to turn up for their appointment and they're going to keep repeating their bookings because we can deliver them successful and effective treatment. So now let's take a look at building an SMS template and what to include to ensure that your reminders are effective. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure is included is the name of your clinic. And within PPS, you can do this really easily. When you set up your SMS account, you can pop it into your SMS message ID. So that just means that when your client receives their appointment reminders, your clinic name is going to be attached to that message. So like you would receive a message from your mom or dad or a friend, it's just going to show the name of the clinic next to that message. And that's going to be key for people identifying which appointment the reminder refers to, especially for new clients. You'll also need to include key information such as the time and the date of the appointment. So they're really basic things. It might seem very obvious. And I'm just going to, instead of talking about why they're important, because I'm sure we all understand that, is just go through how we can actually include those using PPS. So within PPS, when you're setting up your appointment reminder templates, you will have access to a list of merge fields. And what these merge fields do is they cleverly pull through the appropriate information per client. So at the point at which the message is being sent, it will check the time and the date of the appointment for that particular client, and it will automatically fill in that information. So if including the time and the date of the appointment had previously seemed like something that was going to be very time consuming for you, don't worry, using automated reminders does all of that for you. And if we think back to some of the reasons that we looked at earlier as to why people might cancel or fail to turn up for their appointment, with just these three key aspects, so name of the clinic, time and date, we're combating at least the first three issues that we discussed. So people forgetting the time and date, the booking completely, and any clerical errors. So another key bit of information that you might want to include is the location of the appointment. Now, this might be dependent on whether you're sending this reminder to only new clients or whether this is a kind of blanket reminder that gets sent out to all clients. This could be something as simple as a postcode or a link to a Google Maps location. And it's just a case of making sure your clients are aware of how best to find you, how they can locate you. And that's going to combat one of those other issues that we discussed previously, which is people may be apprehensive or anxious about attending a new or unfamiliar setting. So giving them the information they need to find you and find you effectively is going to be key in ensuring that people are turning up for their appointments. So lastly, we've got here including any additional information. So this will really depend on the type of the appointment, and you will know yourself if there is anything else that your clients might need to know to ensure that they are able to keep their appointment. This could be something to do with filling out a registration form prior to attending to save time in their actual physical appointment slot, or it could be something that they might need to bring with them to their appointment. Anything that you think is important and will help that appointment run more smoothly when the client attends, or anything that you think might help encourage the client to turn up for their appointment. So anything that you might need to address that you think might stop your client from attending on the day. And just to give you a very quick insight into what this looks like in PPS. So as you can see, it's not daunting at all. It's a really simple settings screen. And you can pop in the information that you want your client to receive in the text box. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see what that looks like when it arrives in the client's messages. So you'll see the information has automatically been populated and they've got all of the information they need to make sure they can attend their appointment. So if you remember right at the beginning, I did mention that we'd also be looking at different ways to motivate clients. So aside from just including the basic information that they'll need to make sure that they can attend their appointment, there are other ways of putting content together that can motivate clients compared to just a basic message. So I'm going to reference an NHS study that was conducted in 2014, which shows that using monetary values in an SMS reminder has a significant impact in people's behaviour. So just to add a bit more context to the information that we're about to go through, this trial had 2 stages, and stage 1 included just over 10,000 participants, and stage 2 just under 9,000 participants. They were all outpatients of the NHS that had a valid telephone number and an outpatient appointment that was coming up within the time period in which the study was conducted. Appointments were randomly allocated to one of 4 reminder messages, which were issued 5 days in advance. Message assignment was then compared against appointment outcomes, and that's what produced the DNA rates that we're having a look at on the screen here. So I have narrowed it down a little bit on this screen to just show the existing message. So this study was conducted at St. Bart's Hospital in the UK. And you can see in the top right-hand corner here that the existing message just mentioned the location, the time and the date. And then at the bottom it says to cancel or rearrange, call the number on your appointment letter. So the client doesn't even have the number to phone to cancel or rearrange their appointment. They've got to then go and find a separate document to find that information. So the message that was replaced with, which was most effective, was the one that we can see just to the left of that, which included details of specific costs. So we've still got the time and the date there and the location, but they also included information which stated that not attending costs the NHS approximately £160. And if we have a look at the left-hand side here, we can see that the existing message produced a DNA rate of 11.1%, and the specific costs message produced a DNA rate of 8.4%. So that's a reduction of 23% by just adding the approximate cost, so the £160. So including that monetary value was a motivating factor in ensuring that people were attending their appointments. So you might remember that I said there were 4 messages that were used, and obviously we can see that on the graph here. So a message that was categorised as social norms and one that was categorised as easy call. Both did produce a reduction also, but not quite as significant as including that monetary value. I will include a link to this study at the end of the presentation, just so that if you want to have a look further into the content of those other messages, you'll be able to do so. So just to delve a little bit deeper into this particular study, stage 2 saw a similar setup, so just under 10,000 patients and 4 randomised messages. But in this second stage, all of the messages focused a bit more closely on money or monetary values. So in this one, I have included the messages for us to take a quick look at. So there were specific costs, which is what we had a look previously. So not attending costs the NHS £160 was the significant part of that message. General costs, so it just mentions that not attending wastes money. So we're directly bringing that idea into the client's mind. There was empathy, so that just simply referenced being fair to others. So just playing on people's heartstrings there. And lastly, it was the consequences. So we will record as a missed appointment. So if we then move on to the next slide to have a look at the stats that were gained from those randomized messages, we can see that again, specific costs is the highest performing motivator. So out of the patients that received the SMS reminder, there was a DNA rate of just 8.2%. And that's compared to the other messages that we can see there in the table. So I think what we can take from this study is that including a clear cost implication can be a motivating factor when it comes to ensuring that clients are attending their appointments. So hopefully at this point you're feeling pretty confident and you're ready to go and start putting in place all of your SMS reminders. So let's go through a few top tips for building reminder templates. So my first tip would be to draft your content. This can be particularly helpful if you are thinking of implementing multiple reminder templates. So within PPS, you can choose to have just one reminder template that goes out to everybody, or you can set up multiple templates that you can send based on the appointment type. So you could send one just for new clients and a different one to all of your other clients, or you could send different messages depending on the type of treatment that your client is coming in for. This will just give you the ability and the time to reflect on the content before you pop that into your software and get going. So my next tip would be to test your reminders. So before you start sending them out to all of your clients, especially if you're going to be automating them, it's really important to test your reminders by sending yourself a message just to make sure that it's coming through exactly how you want it to appear. So making sure that all the information is in there and that it's appearing as you would like it to appear. The best way to do this within PPS would be to book yourself an appointment in the diary. So that's a key thing to remember. If you've popped yourself into PPS as a client and you're sending out an SMS reminder, if you've used merge fields, so things that are going to automatically pick up the time, date, or location of the appointment, then they won't work unless you've booked yourself a test appointment. So just remember to do that when you're testing your reminders. You'll also need to consider character limits. So this is another reason why drafting your content can be really important. SMS are a clear and concise way of conveying information. So it's really important that we're getting across the key bits of information, but within the limited space that we have. Within PPS, there's a character limit of 160 characters, and it's just something to be aware of when you are constructing that message. So there will be an indicator when you're typing out your template, and it's just something to keep an eye on. You'll also pick something like that up when you're testing your reminders. So character limits, something to keep an eye on, and also a reason why it's important to test your reminders and draft your content. So lastly here, I've included review and adapt. So it's really important that we're using those methods of monitoring client activity and analysing that data to ensure that whatever reminder templates that we put in place, we're continuously reviewing and adapting that content. So it may be that when we first implement SMS reminders, it's really effective. And then we find that there's a dip or a lull a few months down the line. And that's at the point at which we can then review those messages and adapt that content. And you can do that as many times as you want. And that's going to be important to keep on top of because your client base might change, your business might change, the treatments that you offer might change. So that's why it's key to set up those things that we discussed right at the top of today's workshop. When it comes to implementing SMS reminders, there are other things that we'll need to take into consideration. One of which is client contact preferences. So in PPS, when you register a new client, you can record their contact preferences, and that can be per communication, so how they prefer to be communicated with for booking confirmations, reminders, any other reasons that you may want to contact them to do with their appointment. Or you can have kind of a blanket policy of how you prefer to contact your clients, and then your client will get registered with that method accordingly. Obviously, if your client doesn't have the appropriate contact details or really prefers not to be contacted in that way, you can set up their preferences to reflect this, and that will enable you to set up backup methods of contact. So if you have a preferred method of SMS for appointment reminders, but your client simply doesn't want to be contacted that way or doesn't have the means to be contacted that way, you can then set up a backup template, which could be an email, for example, or a telephone call. And using the client contact preferences in PPS, you will then get notified by your software that that client needs contacting in a different manner, or it will automatically trigger that backup contact method, so email or whichever's been chosen. The reason that it's important to get those client contact preferences kind of leads into the next point here, which briefly touches upon data processing and GDPR. So you do have, under data processing, a legitimate interest as the reason for contacting your clients to remind them of their appointments. That doesn't mean that your clients are not able to then opt out if they prefer not to receive SMS messages. So it's really important to be clear with your clients on how you intend to communicate with them and give them the opportunity to opt out or nominate an alternative communication method. So in order for our SMS messages to be effective, we're going to need to keep client details up to date. So just making sure we've got their current mobile number, and we can do that really easily just by sending out regular requests to update their information, or checking that that information is up to date when they're actually attending the clinic. PPS now does feature an online forms option, so you can easily periodically send information out to the clients via a form that they can then check, or a form that just asks them to fill out their up-to-date contact information. When that form then comes back to PPS, you can simply update any changes on the client details screen. And lastly, we need to just make sure that we're capturing accurate information at the point of registering our clients. So again, another basic one, and something that most of you, if not all of you, are probably already doing, but it's just making sure that we're getting all of that contact information and that we've got the correct mobile numbers, email addresses, etc. So lastly, let's take a look at other ways that you can reduce your DNAs aside from SMS reminders. So this is not necessarily instead of, but it's in conjunction with. So we're just creating a really robust method of reducing our DNAs. So number one here, we've got booking confirmations. Really nice and easy, and can be triggered at the point of booking. So another automated method of contact. And typically booking confirmations are usually emails. So that gives you a lot more scope to include more detailed information. And this can be really helpful in making sure that your clients are feeling confident about finding the clinic, knowing that they're ready for their treatment, and they have all of the information that they need to hand. Next, we've got clear policies. So if you do have any cancellation policies in place, then it's really important to make sure that your clients are aware of those policies. They can easily access that information, and they're aware of any cost implications if they were to cancel their appointment or not show up. So next up, we've got follow-up reminders. So this is one that does also encompass people who are cancelling for legitimate reasons. So if they are unwell. Follow-up reminders can be automatically triggered after a period of time, and typically we can give these a slightly longer lead time than we would a normal appointment reminder. So if somebody has been poorly or even in hospital, we might want to give them a bit of extra breathing space. So we can automatically set up a follow-up reminder to go after, say, 3 or 6 weeks, which then just prompts the client to get in touch with us if they are ready to do so, to rebook their appointment. And within PPS, so like you can with your normal SMS reminders, you can set up multiple follow-up reminder templates, and this can be per cancellation reason. So if you typically follow up with a particular message, if somebody calls to cancel because they're ill, you can set that up so that that is automatically triggered, and everybody who cancels because of being ill will get that follow-up reminder however long after. So not only is that ensuring that you are keeping in touch with those clients, it's also reducing some of your admin strain. Lastly, and probably one of the more important things on this list here, is having open communication channels and making sure that your clients are aware of those communication channels. So it will be a case of choosing the most effective method of getting in touch with you, and that will depend on your availability, the size of your team, and that kind of thing. So if you're a solo practitioner, it may be that you can more easily respond to emails as and when you're available. Or if you have a larger clinic, you may want people to get in touch directly with your reception team. So it's just making sure that your clients are aware of how to get in touch and that you are able to respond to their communications. And that will mean that they are able to rearrange their appointments more easily rather than having to resort to not turning up, thus reducing your DNA rate. So that brings us to the end of today's workshop. And hopefully you're all feeling empowered by the knowledge that you've gained today. And if you're ready to start giving things a try, we're here to help you. So don't forget that you can contact us and our support team via live chat or email. You'll get live chat via our website, and the email is support@rushcliffe.com. We've also got a whole plethora of help guides that are out there already, and you'll find those on ppssupport.com. And we do also offer free unlimited training. So if you'd like a bit more of a one-to-one session with somebody, you can book training via our website. So again, go to privatepracticesoftware.co.uk and you'll find a training option at the top of the page, and you can just click on there and choose a slot and book a training session with one of our PPS experts. So that will just give us a chance to really delve into things with you. Take a look at your current setup if you're already using SMS, or we can point you in the right direction and get you started if you're not already using it. So thanks for your time, and hope it's been helpful. Bye for now.